This is TransAfricaRadio.
Oh, good. Oh, good. So good to have you. I know we're going to be chatting about the joy of jazz later on, but I wanted to sort of start the interview by taking it all the way back. Zoe, you were born in Pietermaritzburg. Maleh, you were born in Lesotho, Maseru, right?
Yeah.
Right. At which point can you ladies remember thinking to yourself, wow, I have a gift of singing? You know, do you have any sort of strong memories of realizing that you can actually sing and sing in tune and it actually sounds nice and people actually really enjoy it?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think I always believe it, you're very blessed if you know from quite early on what your passion is, you know. And I was very fortunate to figure it out as early as the age of 8. I remember watching Bob TV and listening
Hashtag
to
throwback.
and brush in hand, you know, and in front of a mirror and going on with Mariah Carey, "Dream Lovers Come Rescue Me." Yeah. And that was my jam at the age of 8, you know. And I know that moment is one that I don't forget because it dawned on me just how much I really enjoyed that very moment that I was in. And, you know, just watching the video and thinking, oh, I want to be like Mariah Carey. You know, so I always have felt very blessed to have known very early on, you know, where my heart is in terms of just who I'm purposed to become.
Yeah.
That's
amazing. And yourself, though?
I think actually, as Maleh said, everyone kind of has that. My microphone was my roll on thing. Right, you know exactly. What I mean? So with me, I pretty much just had a musical director teacher called Mr. Ndlovu.
Okay.
And his whole thing was about like auditioning us for junior choir and stuff. And I mean, before then, I'd like write silly songs about the color yellow or whatever. You know what I mean? Like silly stuff. But I think
yellow is a theme in your life.
But like after the choir thing, I think I started considering it as something I wanted to be around a lot.
Yeah.
You know, that's what, it was never like an idea of a career, but it was something that I liked the idea of doing all the time, you know, so.
Yeah. Okay. And when did the transition happen from, okay, I like this is something that I love and I want to sort of live in this moment? When does it register like, okay, maybe this could be something that I make money from, you know? I know you, Maleh, were in quite a few singing groups, you know, in high school, and you ended up going to the National School of the Arts afterwards as well. So
I wanted to go to the National School of the
also
Arts.
did, though.
I was like, I want to go to Joburg.
Yeah.
School of crazy people, guys, honestly, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up attending a boarding school in Bloemfontein.
Okay.
And that is where it moved from just being a hobby and I really was given the opportunity to do music professionally.
Yeah.
I joined a group of guys who were much older than me and I became the leading lady in the group.
Yes.
And that was when I was like grade 11, grade 12. So I was like bunking school a lot, going to gigs,
rebel,
you know.
Rebel.
And I'm grateful that I kind of was introduced to the industry quite early on. It really forced me to mature quite early and take on the music in a much more serious light and really consider myself as an artist and a professional and. You know, more than just I like to do this after school. It was now I have an audience that I must consider, and I learned a lot about entertainment from these guys, about the South African market, what people really are looking for when you get up there. So I was just really fortunate to have those guys around me as well because they protected me a lot. I mean, they were like my big brothers, and I really got a lot of experience from that time of my life.
Yeah, and were you making money from any of the things?
Girl, I was in grade 12 and I had like, you know, Wuma 2,000 rand.
Yes!
coming in, and I was like,
Bring it.
guys, lunch is on me.
Yes.
So that was, it's been great, because then you deal with money from an early age,
Yeah.
and you blow most of it, and then
what are
regret
you
it
buying?
later.
Yeah, what are you buying at that age? Like, if you're buying lunch, you probably buy like pies and
Guys, it was it actually was muchachos chips.
Okay.
Yeah, no, the trip was always from boarding school. I was like, no, guys, the chips are on me. And
Yes,
then,
girl.
So, but I also, it was nice for me to be able to help out at home as well sometimes.
Yeah.
I'd be like, hey, we have this show and it's only going to give me this much. And, Papa, can I, send you this much for, a few things here and there, if ever I knew that there were, things maybe not, covered, at home,
Okay.
So it was a great feeling to be able to start doing that at that early age,
Okay. Yeah. And Zoe, when do you think you realized, okay, this is something that I actually want to push in?
Jeez, I think as soon as I auditioned for the National School of the Arts, an aunt of mine that was working at Liberty, which is like opposite the school, was like, hey, you should try going to this place, and I was like, oh yeah, sure. Went to audition, sang I Dreamed a Dream by Les Miserables. I still can't pronounce that thing, but anyway.
It's French.
So, yeah. It's basically some French awesome musical, and from then on, being in the school introduced me to people that were already, in the industry. Most of them were like presenters and young actors and stuff. So like your Dineo and Chabelings, who was in Generations at the time.
Okay.
And I think I remember having like a hippie fit watching her. I was like, oh my word, I got to the same school as you. But it was cool to be introduced to people that were already doing what it is that they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I started doing like competitions at Art Globe, which is like an Afrikaans festival. I don't know if it still happens. But I won like a few categories there. And from then on, I was able to do like corporates and stuff. So I'd just bring my backing track and sing and be like, oh my word, this talented little person. Yay, So I think it clicked then that this was pretty much the only option I was giving myself, in terms of music and wanting to do it. And I fell in love with the whole thing of working at it, with classical music, you have to spend the hours on those instruments all the time. So it was like, geez, I'm investing so much into this. I don't see myself doing anything else.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And
that
I know,
was my
I know that you play what? You play piano, you play guitar, and you played recorder or flute?
clarinet.
Clarinet.
Yes.
Girl, okay.
Ish. Guys, is that thing not like the biggest load of work? Like even breathing through the thing. It's not worse than trumpet. That's just the world.
That's next level. Yeah.
But like it's like breathing through that reed is like all of your life, honestly, flashing. It's a whole lot of work, honestly.
But you launched yourself. Haven't you? You said you wanted to play it.
For sure, that's true.
Yeah. Both of you ladies are quite accomplished songwriters as well. Why is it so important for you to write? And where would you say your inspiration comes from when you put songs together? I can start with Zoe because I've been starting with Maleh a lot.
Jeez. Firstly, I don't think I'm an accomplished songwriter.
You wrote a whole album of 23 songs
Girl,
at the age
tell
of
me
20.
about
What?
it, right?
That 23.
Give us a chance. Give us a chance, man.
I think for me personally, I like the idea of having a story to tell and being able to relay that, musically, and being as honest as I can be about where I am in my life, personally, where I am musically. you know. So for me, that's just like a beautiful space to be in, to be able to express. Because I think, for some people, it might not necessarily be your strongest point, but for me, it's so important to have a personal narrative and to be able to bring that out, and especially with the debut album, Yellow the Novel, the whole thing was around self-realization. So it was so important to just be like, where am I spiritually?
Right.
Where am I? There's a song that talks about being alone all the time. There's a song that talks about a breakup that I had and feeling sad about that, So I think it's just, a cool space to kind of experiment with, which I think is what I'm doing at this point in my career.
Great.
Yeah,
Your turn.
I absolutely agree. From as early as I started writing, it's been that experience of like hanging out with your best friend, and music and the lyrics are your confidant, and that's where you just kind of pour out everything about everything you've said, who you are, your emotions, where you're at, what you're about at that time. And it's very much the same with me as well. It's always really been that personal experience of what I'm going through, and because I feel like we're all going through the same things a lot of the time, and that's why people identify with the music when you're being authentic about, and you're giving them all the different colors of who you are at that point in time. So for me, it's always even when I write, it mostly it will come first with the melody that's kind of haunting me and playing around in my head, and that will define for me the mood, and then I'll know from that perhaps what I could share about what the music or whatever it is the melody is leads me into sharing. So much like Zoe at that age, guys, I feel so old at that age. When I was 25, and that's when I wrote my debut, and it was titled Stepchild. And the first line says, "Stepchild into the wilderness of me." That's where I was at that point in my life, and that's what most of the album was about, the introspection and really just trying to figure out, I am woman, but what woman am I,
At 25.
At 25.
I don't have it figured out what's going on.
And a lot of the album was, had songs that really were really looking at the journey that I was embarking on, and my choices regarding, taking on a solo career and that kind of thing. So I find that recently I'm writing a lot about love, and that's kind of
is that where you're
at?
Tell us, girl.
That is really a big theme, I think, in my life right now. Different kind of just the different dynamics of love, and the different love relationships we experience in our lives. And so a lot of my previous album, "You Make My Heart Go," and this recent release, Golden Rain, talks about my many, many, many wonderful and challenging and beautiful experiences of love.
I'm gonna hold that. I don't want to start talking about the new album because that's a question that's coming up. But I did want to. You touched on a bit about your process of when you write. What would you say? What's your process like, Zoe? What do you have? I know a lot of people think like, okay, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna write a song about this. And I find, especially with vocalists, it's never really that, cut and dry. Sometimes you just have a melody and then it transforms into something. Some people have dreams. We were talking about this last week with Babsalalo Slota. I was like, I've always wanted to be that artist to be like, no, I had a dream.
Right.
I had an epiphany and the song came to me in a dream, But sometimes it's not that, glamorous and amazing. It's just like, oh, I just had a melody. So what would you say your process is like? And you are allowed to have more than one process, which also, happens.
Well, geez, I definitely wish I had dreams. I feel like that would be so awesome.
Right.
Great. This is who I am. I'm an artist. But sometimes it's like this random instinct that I get. And I always have to go to my voice recorder because this idea is going to fade. When you're like, this sounds good.
Gotta catch it quickly, girl.
It's materialized this quickly. Sometimes it's like a melody, like Maleh was saying. Sometimes it's like playing with chords, and then you find something that is really that looks like something you can build on. Sometimes it's like, usually when I'm traveling, that's usually when I'm the most thoughtful. I'll write words, a series of words down, and then they just so happen to rhyme.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, this is something I could, build on. And recently I've been trying to get into a lot more of my Zulu songwriting, which unfortunately needs a lot more thought from me because, I think we're living in a time now where the language that you speak or grew up with is not the one that you think in, because we're not educated in it. So it takes a lot more time for me. But with the English songwriting, it's very immediate. The ideas bounce through. So but yeah, it's really just a different process depending on time, place, variables. But
One day we'll have dreams, ladies.
One
One day we'll have dreams. If you've just tuned in, I'm chatting to the beautiful ladies who joined me today, Zoe Modiga and Maleh. Going to be chatting all things Joy of Jazz. They are both on the bill, so looking forward to chatting to them about what their fans can expect. If you have any questions for us, please do hit us up on our WhatsApp line, which is 079-254-4329. Alternatively, you can also tweet us on Twitter on our official Twitter handle, which is at TransAfrica872, or you can hit me up on my Twitter handle, which is at sparkling_M. Please use the hashtag Jazz Sessions, because that's what you're listening to. Gonna take a little bit of a break, and after this, we carry on talking to these beautiful ladies. Here sounds from Maleh now with Kimo Africa. 10:32 Central African time here on TransAfrica Radio. And of course, I have the ladies here in studio. If you've just joined us, we have the two ladies here chatting about music and all things Joy of Jazz. They, of course, are on the lineup for the Joy of Jazz, which happens at the end of this month from the 28th to the 30th of September, the oldest jazz festival in South Africa. How are you guys feeling about playing at the festival?
Oh my word. I think I'm going to burst and lose my brains. I've been saying this in everything that we've been asked about with regards to the Stand Bank Joy of Jazz. I'd originally been a part of the festival through the Grahamstown Youth Jazz Band.
Okay.
Under the leadership of Marcus Wyatt and Mark Fransman.
Okay.
So that was like my introduction to the fest. But now it's so cool to be able to like come in own capacity and be like, hi guys, this is what we do. Stand up, woo, clap your hands, all that stuff. So it's really beautiful, and to be alongside such amazing acts, people that I've looked up to for a very long time. It's quite an honor.
Yeah. And yourself, Maleh?
Yes. I've also been saying the same thing about the festival in terms of how I feel, because my experience with the Joy of Jazz was 10 years ago. I'm working behind the scenes as an intern at the production company that that owns the festival. So, it's interesting, that this year I'll have the opportunity to be on the stage as opposed to behind the stage and running around giving the artists water. Someone will be running around and giving me the water,
Take that water, girl.
So, that's exciting. I really learned a lot, particularly from Mandwa, who's the captain of the ship at Team Music Man, and she really does an amazing job putting the creative, with the creative direction of the show, and then just putting everything together. And I learned a lot from that woman of power. As a young person, I've been able to apply a lot of what I learned, some of the skills of putting things together in the office, applying them to my own career now. So it's just, I've been saying, I feel like I've come full circle, because it's at the Joy of Jazz that I decided that I would pursue my solo career. After watching and having a moment where I was watching Chris Boerty on stage, and the crowd just surrounded around him, and people really left their seats and moved all the way to the front of the stage in a moment of a very beautiful song. And just that moment was so capturing for me. I was like, okay, what am I doing back here again? That's what I want to live for as well, So I'm very excited about having been given the opportunity. I know when they make the selection of artists, Peter and Mandwa have very high expectations and standards. So not just anybody gets onto that stage. So it's an honor for me as well, absolutely.
Tell us a bit about the internship. I didn't know about that.
When I got to Joburg, and I just graduated from film school, and I just discovered after my graduation that I was not going to be moving into film. Because
that happens.
And your parents are like, oh, una degree ulo sebetsa, and you're like, no, I'm not going that direction. But I quickly started to send out, letters of application to be an intern, and I really felt like perhaps I would want to get an idea of the business of music and really what happens behind the scenes. And I started to just send out some requests, and Mandro was great enough to reply and said, "Yeah, come through and let's have a chat." And my interview went well, and I was working there the next day, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm at the Joy of Jazz," and that was so exciting for me as a young person. When I think I was at a point in my life where I really didn't know which direction I was going to take, and I needed a job. I needed to stay on in Joburg, otherwise I would have to be sent back home to Lesotho. And I was like, I ain't having that. I am a Joburg girl now. I got to do something with my life, and so I felt anywhere related to music and where I could still, kind of be plugged in somewhere somehow would be great.
And she had no idea that you were a singer at this point?
I think she's mentioned that, she did mention that, I think I saw you perform with Kaya, because I'd written there that I was part of the group Kaya, that was part of my CV as well. And she had actually been an audience member to a show that we did somewhere at Birchwood Hotel. And, I was a little... spark of fire there on stage. And so she remembered me from that, I think. And, obviously when you're working with production, you're working with production. So I didn't necessarily get a lot of opportunities to get into the music front of the jazz festival.
So there was no staff that shows or...
I mean, they have the workshops, and, when you're at the workshops, if you have a moment to kind of sneak in and check out the likes of whoever is running that at the time, you're fortunate and you're lucky. And that's why I say at the Chris Boerty show, I was on my little production break at the back, and I was like, these artists in their water, forget them, I need 10 minutes, and so I snuck into one of the stages to go give myself a little break, and I have all access, so it was one of those.
Must be nice. It actually reminds me of a story. I heard of Jill Scott, how she used to be a painter, and how she ended up working or recording her first album. She was painting at Jazzy Jeff's studio, I think. Wow. And she says he didn't know that she was a singer. I think he only knew that she was a poet. So she would be painting and she'd be like humming along, like, wow. Just like advertise herself, like, listen, I've got the goods. I've got the goods.
That's so true.
That's such an interesting story. I wanted to ask, earlier on when we were playing the music, someone tweeted that Zoe is quite young. You're only 24, and when I listened to Yellow, your debut album, Yellow the Novel, it's like it's almost like you've lived like 100 years. Like there's so much depth in the stories and in the songs. One Liter Deep comes out for me as one is the ones that I love. Where you talk about how you love different kinds of people and would they get along well, and I think that's also a reflection on the world, because we live in a world with different kinds of people. Like, where does all of this come from?
Jeez. Well, I have no idea. I think I like life. I like that my nickname is Zoe, because Zoe means life, and I like looking into things just a little longer, and I think maybe that's what comes through in the body of work, the idea of just like noticing, and I think that's something anyone can do, with songs like Would They, I was actually thinking about the things that I believe in, my belief system, and how I've met people that are completely contrasting to that, and yet they embody the things that I believe in. And I was like, oh my word, this is so crazy. We always think things take one particular kind of shape, but sometimes you can learn, for example, more about God in a space that doesn't seem like it has space for him than you would in a religious, place.
Right.
So with that, it was like, actually, I know so many different kinds of people, but would they get along well if they actually knew that they're more or less the same thing?
Yeah.
But they're just, So, I'm fascinated by human beings. I'm fascinated by the human experience, and just like, the things we get up to, I think we're so strong, and the fact that we're alive for me is like testament that we're so strong as people. Because we go through so many different kinds of things. So, man. So I have no idea what the age thing is about. I'm just observing. That's all. Observing and serving.
Just an observant 23-year-old.
Yeah.
Maleh, you've been sort of quiet, girl. We haven't had anything from you in a while. And I heard a little birdie told me. Yes.
It always has to be a bird.
Or I heard in a dream. I heard in a dream that you're working on a new album. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes. I've been kind of locked up, and I think when I make music, I really kind of just come into myself and into my own little world, and I get lost in just my space, and I find myself not as active on, I know you were talking about earlier, and I'm not so active on other platforms where I should be really
such as social media.
I don't know why. I believe I go into a space where it just needs to be about that moment and time of my life, and just dealing with just what I need to be dealing with in my immediate surroundings. And then, and also, I don't know, I just don't always have a way of really balancing the time in the way that I ought to, perhaps, but I have been secluded and doing my musical thing. Working on my third album, which is titled Golden Rain.
Okay.
And it's one that's close to my heart. Again, the theme really has been love and the different colors of love. Sometimes love is a dark purple. Sometimes love is a bright red. And I've just been going through the different colors of love in my life. I think a big part of where my journey has been my walk in terms of my spiritual kind of growth. I'm a lover of Christ Jesus.
Amen.
I'm happy to say that it's a Sunday, as well. Any day is a Christ Jesus day that I celebrate every day. And I feel like Golden Rain particularly is a song that just really goes into my experience of my walk with he who connects me to my creator, who is essentially my creator. And his love is just overwhelming every time. And I get to express that through music. And I think music is so much one of those mediums to be able to, and remind people of everything that is love, all the attributes and the values of love, sharing, kindness, forgiveness, and all of those things. So I've just been exploring my personal experience and growth in love. And that is Golden Rain, and, one of the lines in the song says, I was walking, trying to get on by. The road had laid me some burdens I never would have thought I'd see, and that's just how I've been feeling. And as Zoe says, we're strong, so we survive and we get over the hurdles and we keep going on. So Golden Rain is a very special album to me. It's very different from the past two albums. I feel like I've been in a space also in my life where I've been celebrating life a little bit more, feeling a whole lot more comfortable with who I am, and in a happy space being a wife and a mother, and those have been some of the predominant roles I've been playing in my life at the moment. So Golden Rain.
Yes. Excited.
Yeah.
When can we expect the album?
Well, it's actually, we've just also recently dropped off the single here, TransAfrica. So the single is out. It is titled Golden Rain, and the album is on digital platforms.
Okay,
it's nationwide available. So I am just waiting on the response. And I'm like, for everybody who was expecting a laid back, soulful album, the soul is still there, but the tempo is a whole lot more
shifted.
Let's just dance and really enjoy life. That's how I've been feeling, and so it really reflects in the music.
Excited to hear about and to hear that album, and still chatting to the beautiful ladies here, Zoe Modiga and Maleh, chatting all things joy of jazz. If you have any questions for them, please do WhatsApp us on 079-254-4329. Alternatively, you can tweet us also if there's anything you want to know from the ladies, chatting about music and also chatting about love, because that's the space that Maleh's in. And on that note, here's some sounds from Maleh with the Uthando Lwami.
TransAfricaRadio.
Got 5 more minutes with you guys. I know you are both playing at the Joy of Jazz. What dates are you both playing?
On Friday the 29th.
Okay.
I shall be sharing the stage with the Music Soul Child.
Wow.
How cool is that? I mean, those are some of the wild things about life. You grow up loving and adoring an artist, and then one day you find yourself, and his dressing room better be right next to mine. It's like, hey, what's up?
You guys can share water.
And the great Tshepo Tshola.
Oh, wow.
And I had the pleasure of meeting a lovely soul, Brenda Ntambo.
Oh, she's incredible.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
She's got a voice that is just something else, you know. And so I'm just honored to be amongst the likes of those amazing artists at the Mbira stage, Friday the 29th.
Okay.
That's Maleh.
What time?
Times and times.
And more times.
There's a song called Time Again. Come early so you can catch everybody.
Great. And yourself, Zoe?
I'm on the 30th on the Mbira stage as well, featuring some amazing musicians. Bokani Daya, Robin Fasikok, Romy Bratiseth, Marlon Vitboy, Lute Danga. To name a few.
Okay.
Let me say that so that I'm not forgetting people's names and getting like the beating of my life afterwards.
Yeah.
But exciting times.
And what can fans expect from your performance?
Show, guys.
Yes.
I believe in music and entertainment, and I promise you I'm going to give you that. It's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be heartfelt, and it's going to be coming from an honest place, so people can expect that.
Yes. And yourself, Maleh, anything from the new album that people can look forward to hearing?
I'm so excited about sharing some of the tracks on the new album. I performed Time Again, which is on the new album yesterday at the morning live session we had.
Okay.
I think always performing songs that you've just been working on in studio is very nerve-wracking. I don't know, I feel like but I'm so excited about getting into them with the band that I work with, some incredible guys, and we are going to be translating what we have on disc into live now, so I am looking forward to high energy performance, a lot of fun. We always love to have people up and dancing. That's, for me, that's a great show, that's gone down well if the people are really taken to the next level, So, I'm just really looking forward to it. It's going to be absolutely incredible.
Tenga. Bye.
These ladies are going to give you an amazing show. So hopefully this was enticing enough for you to go out there and get your Joy of Jazz tickets. All the best, ladies. Very, very excited. Thank you so much for making the time. I have one more question for you before I let you go. And I play out with the sounds of Maleh. I know Titi's already looking at me like, girl, you need to finish up. She is...
wrap on up.
She is holding it down for Ranzu, who is going to be playing you some African love songs at the time of 11 a.m. Central African time. But my last question for you guys is: Trans Africa Radio plays 100% African music. What are your thoughts?
We don't need to fight for the airplane. No. Look, I think it's extremely amazing, and we need a lot more of that. I think the more music that we play that is local, that is African, the more people feel like a sense of belonging and pride to what they listen to. I look at the Nigerian culture of music and the way people relate to that, and I'm just like, we need to totally be about that.
Ourselves every day,
where you just like play Maleh now, all the time.
Always away, Yeah, no, definitely. We really appreciate as artists being appreciated, the work that we do. We give it out with love, so that it's received with so much love that it's only African. That is absolutely wonderful and much appreciated.
And it's all love. It's all love from our side. Thank you so much, ladies, for making the time.
This is TransAfrica Radio.